There we go. Get the volume up. Hopefully everybody is in the Christmas spirit. We'll click a few buttons. There we go. Good evening, everybody. That's what we like to see. We'll just let people wander their way in as we have gone live and all that jazz. Just have a quick check of some of the bits. A few bits there. Now that is a very, very solid result there for the GB under 18s. Few answers to their warm-up question coming in as well, which we like. Plenty going on. Oh, and news right as we're going on air as well, which is what we like. We'll do that, yeah. Let's click a few buttons. There we go. People slowly working their way in. So we'll talk about that bit of news, talk about those two bits of news momentarily. Clicking buttons. There we go. Folk are working their way in, which is what we like to see. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Crazy thing, it's only a week till Christmas as well, isn't it? Either way, as I know people are starting to come in, I think we should probably get rocking and rolling. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary, it is Wednesday night. It is 8 PM and welcome back once again to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here to take you through the weird, wonderful and wild world that is the National Ice Hockey League structure here in Great Britain. We focus on the National Division, that is our bread and butter, that is our home port. But of course we are here to go through absolutely all of it, all 5 divisions. That means the National Division as well as Division 1 and Division 2 in the north. And in the south. Good evening, everybody. 1 week until Christmas. That means we've got all our Christmas party stuff. We've got the Twiglets, because you can't have Christmas without Twiglets. We got the beers on. I mean, it's Heineken Zero because I got work in the morning, but like close enough. So here's to you, wherever you are. But yeah, fantastic stuff. Another great weekend of hockey in the books, and one where I got back into the NIHL for the first time in a little while. For those of you unfamiliar, not quite done with the commentary for the Flames yet. My little sort of stint with them finishes officially January 5th is my last game for planned game at the moment for Guildford. It's not I'm sort of walking off into walking off into the ether quite yet for Guildford, but just the amount of bookings I've got has gone. But before we get too far, we need to, of course, there's plenty of news to talk about. In fact, there's news happening just right now as well, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's do the housekeeping before we kick off too far. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to the NIHL. And of course, the Banners on the Road series has finally stepped out of its box, and we are back in our home turf of the National Ice Hockey League. And last Saturday night I was at the Planet Ice Gosport for what is genuinely one of my favourite games of the year whenever it happens. The Solent Devils and Streatham Redhawks put on a bit of a show. Bit of an interesting first period, but the Banners on the Road series, where I go in depth into every game that I've seen, gives you a good, full, solid rundown of any game I've managed to get to, and 2 sides that I have a lot of respect for. I know guys in both, on both teams as well, both sort of in passing and personally. So it was great to be able to watch that. A game that had a bit of something for absolutely everybody, and one that we'll talk about when we get to the NIHL 1 South results in a bit. But of course, you've got all of that. Hockey stories are long-form bits of content that you can check out there on the website. Plenty of stuff, nearly 14 years worth of content, nearly 1,000 published pieces over at bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. And of course, the other bit is that we are here live on YouTube. If you check down in the description box below, you will get all of our social media links. That's for Twitter, for Blue Sky, for Facebook, as well as our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. You can also get the link to 3D Lee, and you've got where you can pick, if you chat to Lee, you can get fantastic 3D printed things like this awesome little sign I've got and this puck and stand that Lee did for me. So fantastic. Thanks very much to Lee for sorting me out with those. But all of those things are down there below. And of course, if you're going to the description box, you've got to go past a couple of important things. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video. If you're watching us live, go share it out now. Go stick it on your socials. Let's see how many people we can get in and join the Christmas party, as it were. That'd be awesome. But of course, the other great bit about being live is that you get to join in the chat. Questions, comments, thoughts and feelings as we go along through all of the news across all 5 divisions of the NIHL. All that we ask is if you do stick something in the chat box, please remember the golden rule, DBAD, don't be a dick, be respectful of other people's thoughts and feelings, and we will have a jolly good time for all. Now, looking at it, we are just having a look at some bits and pieces, and news out of Germany is that the Great Britain under 18s have won by 3 goals to 2 over the Kölner Higher under 17s. By the looks of that, that's goals for Bailey Yates, Josh Crawley and Joe Tomlin. Unconfirmed at the moment who was in goal for it. We'll try and get that. If somebody can figure that out during the show, that'd be appreciated. That'd be awesome as well. But GB losing to Krefeld by 3 goals to 1 on Tuesday night. They've won tonight against Köln, and then they play again tomorrow night against Düsseldorf. They're at the classic ice hockey stadium in Düsseldorf, the Eisstadion Bremenstraße. Very, very famous in German hockey. Kind of a bit like, you know, one of those sort of classic old stadiums. It's been around for a really long time. Kind of like the Murray Field of Germany a little bit, that rink there. But a great result for GB. Great for them to rebound after losing last night. But good news there. The other news out of the NIHL that's come out in the last few minutes is that he's not been on their roster for a little bit, but finally the announcement comes that Jacob Ranson is leaving the Romford Raiders. Unconfirmed at this time as to where he go. I see from the chat there, Chris Beale, who I believe is probably still sat down editing the highlights from Stratham's game on Sunday against Chelmsford, he says he'd like Jacob Ranson back on the high road. Now, obviously, a little bit of player movement, unconfirmed necessarily as to why Jacob's gone, but gone he has. Obviously, I mean, Jacob works outside of hockey, could be circumstances, could just be anything, really. Also, with Romford, things are going so well, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well, that maybe they just don't want to upset the balance. And where Jacob, obviously, I mean, he had some time away from the team because he'd been on holiday, he'd gone away, and they don't want to upset the apple cart, and that means there's an opportunity for Jacob Ranson elsewhere. Plenty of opportunities in South 1, but also as well, you have to think that maybe the Bees might be sniffing around after him. Peterborough, you know, Romford to Peterborough's not too far. Could that be an option for him as well? If the Phantoms need some extra depth, given their history with injuries over time as well. Either way, Jacob, a guy I've chatted to quite a bit over time, wishing him all the best as he moves on from his time with Romford. He's a Romford boy, so he will obviously, it's never nice to have to sort of leave your hometown club. However, that's the nature of hockey. It's a transient sport, my friends, and that is what we move on to. Of course, Andrew Day, the social media scoreboard supremo, in the chat already giving us the update from the Elite League tonight. The Belfast Giants leading by 3 goals to 1 against the Coventry Blaze. Jordan Kawaguchi, Mark Cooper and Mike Lee on the board for the host. Chase Grisock has the lone responding goal for Coventry tonight, which sees an Elite League competitive debut for Billy Thorpe on a 2-way with the Peterborough Phantoms, the only 2-way contracted player for Coventry this year, and that means that Thorpe getting into the lineup. Injuries in the Coventry D this evening as well, which has seen assistant coach Zach Vinnell step off of the bench onto the ice again for the first time in quite some time, having played for the Steelers and been a part of the great success that they had last season. He's now back playing as well. Hopefully as well, we can probably as well just double check as we're chatting, because that's the joy of the Elite League website. If we just quickly stick in the bits and pieces, if we go to the live game, if we go to the player stats, we can see where is Billy Thorpe on the Coventry roster. Thorpe, number 14, he has seen 3 minutes and 15 seconds of ice time through sort of 2 and a bit periods, which is more than St Mackenzie's got so far, which is pretty impressive, all things considered. The fact that Coventry obviously needing to use the extra D that they've picked up. So fair play to Billy, and congratulations to him. Of course, made a big impression on commentary during the pre-season to the point that sort of got him this look in the door. And we now have that, more young British guys getting a look in, and if nothing else, the vibes in Coventry are immaculate this season. Alfie saying, shame this isn't on tomorrow. Big announcement. You're probably going to have to go more into more detail there, Alfie, all things considered. I have obviously been working today and have my head down a little bit. But it remains to be seen as to what sort of big announcement that'll be. If you'd like to sit that in the chat, that'd be appreciated. Andrew Rowe in the chat, you all, sorry, have to do it properly or don't do it at all. And then what's Chris said? I'm splicing and dicing the footage at the speed of a Vanya Antonov breakaway, 2018 or 2024. But no, all things considered, Vanya's at high speed. Always such a good skater. And yeah, if you missed it at the beginning, Christmas party time here at BOTW. This will be the last one before Christmas. So we got the beers out. So that's going to be much nicer to knock back than water as we go along. Either way, like I say, yeah, obviously a few bits and pieces. I did stick in the write up on the website in the latest banners on the road from Solent versus Streatham. It's so weird having had sort of 4 weeks of having to go to a game and kind of do a job. Now, don't get me wrong, getting a job where you get to talk about hockey is pretty fun, all things considered. But it's such a different experience having done that for a month, because it was 4 weeks on the spin where I was in Guildford, and you're kind of bypassing everything. You bypass people. I'm in the rink before anybody else is kind of let in. It's just quiet, but I'm preparing, I'm writing bits and pieces. So to kind of be back outside in the line, sitting on those ridiculously hard seats at Gosport to the point where I just gave up and stood on the back row of the stands, and just everything kind of. And the thing is as well, having been at hockey where I'd kind of been on my own, because of course I'm just standing there by myself, to then suddenly be in amongst it with people all around me and noise and chatter and talking and all sorts, it's kind of why you love hockey, right? And I mean, I talk in the piece about kind of like being in love with the imperfections of it and why I really enjoy hockey in the NIHL, because it's not squeaky clean and it's not polished, and we wouldn't necessarily want it that way. Hockey is not a sport, I think, that kind of benefits from being really far removed from its audience in that way. But yeah, certainly having had 4 weeks of one experience to then come back and do something that I was much more used to was just really refreshing, if nothing else. It's really, really nice. And yeah, Gosport is not going to win any prizes for being the nicest rink in the country, but I'm not that fussed. I want the hockey, and the hockey is kind of, that atmosphere and that environment around it has that impact on the game as well, and that's really interesting to see as well. So I really, really enjoyed that. New player coming to the league, gonna turn heads. Well, everybody. Turn heads. Oh, great! Max Fabre is back, and he's going to headshot everybody. Warm up question. Would like a defender at the Lightning. Could even have an import, seeing as Lawrence looks to be out. Wells from Swindon has been impressive. Need a D to finish the roster. Ah ha ha ha. Ah ha ha ha. Oh, there's the hint, is it? All things considered, I wonder what Finnish D-man are just sort of lurking around, because nobody will ever be better for me than Mikko Puratankinen. There's a Basingstoke reference for those who remember it. And yeah, Andrew stuck it in the chat. Let's talk about it before we crack on with the NIHL bits and pieces. Nearly, but not quite, for GB's women on their Olympic qualification journey. They lose the final game in overtime to the Netherlands and are out of the qualification tournament for the Winter Olympics in the Italian Alps 2026. But a heck of a showing, and they really massively put up a huge performance, losing that last game going all the way to overtime, and as we can see from the chat, 64-14, the heartbreaking goal. But let's turn this on its head a little bit. If this is the sort of effort and exertion that we can get out of our women's national team, what for Worlds? What for our U18s, right? And also, I mean, Andrew's been banging that drum. Adam Macklin's been banging that drum. Lots of people who were at those games this past weekend banging that drum of women's hockey is not something to be bypassed. Like, get on board if you get the opportunity to. Just quickly then going through the results. GB, of course, started on Thursday against Latvia, a 3-2 victory for GB there. Jodie Alderson-Smith, Katie Henry and Catherine Gale with the goals in that game, beating out the goals from Leah Mione and Krista Yipchuk. Saturday, it was a shutout victory for GB. I think Ella Howder was in goal. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew. But Katie Henry and Katie Henry with 2 goals, and then empty netter from Jodie Alderson-Smith with the big ones there. And and then unfortunately Savina Wielenga with the lone OT game-winning goal 46 seconds from time sends the Netherlands through to the final qualification tournament for Milano 2026. Dylan was there as well. He was on the media team doing bits and pieces. This new guy reminds me of those old big EPL Scandinavian demon, and I'll still maintain none of them are better than Mika Purotankanen. But yeah, plenty of clearly some excitement around Milton Keynes. Interested to see what kind of comes out of it. The big question, of course, then let's hit this up. Let's go this on the. Firstly, I'll do that. Let's talk about then the elephant in the room as we go through to the scores from last week. Let's put it on the board there for everyone to see. Milton Keynes, a goal down from the first leg in the semi-final of the National Division Cup, go 3-0 up. 3-0 up, and not just 3-0 up, a Ross Venus natural hat-trick puts the Lightning in prime position, and the Romford Raiders shock the world, or at least certainly the British ice hockey world. 5 unanswered goals from Adam Leishram's side, down an import due to the suspension of Zach Yokoyama, and the Romford Raiders win by 10-7 on aggregate and put themselves for the first time into the National Cup final. What a result for the Gold and Blue. TJ Anderson with 2 goals, Sean Miller, Jake Sylvester, and that empty netter at the end from Ashley Jackson that he banked off the wall. Absolutely zero intention I would feel on that one from Ash Jackson, but it doesn't matter on that front because Romford put themselves over the line, and they will await the winner of the tie that starts on Friday between the Leeds Knights and the Sheffield Steel Dogs. And ultimately, obviously, a lot of perturbation at the moment within things for the Lightning. I've had this conversation with a couple of people. I've had this conversation with Jack McCarthy from Macca's Talk Hockey, and I do feel sometimes that people are kind of I'm not sure what they necessarily were expecting from people like Jordan Spatafor. You signed a stay-at-home D-man. He's not going to score points. Spatafor's bigger issue appears that he has just not adapted very well to how the game is officiated in Britain, and that is obviously going to be quite a problem for him. MK, however, they have the budgetary power, they have the financial muscle to go out and sign guys. If Dylan Lawrence is going to be out, they can run 4 imports by the look of it, and 4 imports that will cost money. Romford, well, yeah, Zach Yokoyama's not going to be on a ton of money, all things considered. So that will be the issue there. But the issue for MK, it's not guys, it's glue, right? It's the big issue is never been that the Milton Keynes and it's this idea that you can have every big name the whole way through. You can have tons and tons of guys. You can have a team of Sean Norrises, but if the balance isn't right, then it's not going to work. And that's the big issue there for MK, is that you keep signing big guys, but you've got to sign some more glue guys. For all of his many faults, Liam Stewart, glue guy. Like, you'd almost be better having him back because he would galvanise things a bit more. You can't just keep signing guy after guy and think, these great players will work together. It doesn't always work like that. And ultimately, Romford, who were put together at speed, dropping out. It will drop out. It will drop back in a moment, G. So don't worry about that. But ultimately, just bonkers, really. Romford, congratulations to the Gold and Blue. Congratulations to Adam Leishram and the boys. They have made it through to the next round of the National Division Cup. And that was Thursday. Into Friday then. And then Friday, yeah, everything's great. Fantastic, G. Really pleased to hear that that's worked again. It did drop out on my end as well, but it appears to be working again a bit better now. Friday then, and a good start to the weekend it was for the Peterborough Phantoms, who pulled out a 6-3 victory away at the Sheffield Steel Dogs. Sam Cooper and Joe Gretton decided to trade a few words and a few fists into the bargain, but ultimately it is Peterborough doing a Peterborough. You can never count them out, as you know, I've said it plenty of times, you just can't bank on the Phantoms doing what you expect them to do. Austin Mitchell King, apologies, oh dear, dear me, what a time for a frog to stick in my throat. 2 goals from Cam Huff, as well as goals from Luke Ferraro, Jarvis Hunt and Callum Buglis for the Phantoms. Walker Summer, El Mary Helfors on the board for the Dogs. 2 for Summer in that one as he continues his fine point-scoring form. And then that takes us into Saturday. And a decent start, a decent win on Saturday for the Swindon Wildcats. Obviously, Hull form's picked up a bit for the Seahawks recently, and one where this was a game from having spoken to people who were at it that the Seahawks were there or thereabouts, but ultimately you can see there at the end 3 goals inside the last 8 minutes doing the real damage, and Swindon skate out of this one with a 5-2 win. Bobby Chamberlain, who's really picked up his scoring boots recently for the Seahawks, and Davey Phillips with the goals for the visitors. Ballon Picotti, Chris Jones, Aaronell, Reed Sayers and Jake Bricknell for the Wildcats, who are still hanging on the coattails of those top 2. And then Romford, well, they probably didn't give an absolute toss what happened this past weekend as they made the cup final, but a lengthy trip up to Leeds, and one that ultimately, well, the Leeds Knights are the Leeds Knights, aren't they, after all? And a 3-1 win. A tough game all in all, and one that I'm sure Andrew will stick something in the chat about momentarily, but the Knights at home were always a tough prospect. But Romford showing that little bit of fight, but ultimately not to be. The Raiders goal up heading into the back end of the second period, but the Knights will push on. Sean Miller with a goal for the Raiders, Matt Barron, Matt Howlett and Matt Hayward ultimately turning that game around for the league champions. And then, well, there's the Bees. God bless them. The bloody-minded Bees, who headed up for a double-header in Dumfries with 4 defencemen and 1 netminder and 7 forwards, and it was, as you can see, a pretty tough time. And it was, on Saturday, if nothing else, the Nolan Gardiner show as he scores 5 goals in a game. Now, I don't know whether Joe's in the chat or not, obviously he was on commentary up there with it. I don't know what the single game record is for goals in a game in the National Division since its inception, but 5 has got to be pretty high up that list. But yeah, a tough night for the Bees and a tough night for Dean Skins, who of course got no relief, had no relief and had to face the entirety of it. 5 for Nolan Gardner, as we discussed. The other goals coming from Liam Stenton, Kyle Carruth, Callum Boyd and Connor Henderson for the Sharks. Vanya Antonov and another 2 goals from Will Stead in what is definitely going to be Stead's best career year in terms of points. On Saturday, well, the Dogs had a bad Friday night, but they got back to winning ways on the road. I don't know whether, if you've not seen the goal from Ivan Björkley-Nordstrom, it's pretty mint. Jamie McElroy, of course, very pleased about it. You always know he's happy when he reposts a clip of anything on social media. But a 4-2 win for the Dogs as they win the Puppy Bowl against Bristol. Björkley-Nordstrom, 2 for Walker Summer and another goal on the weekend for Elmiri Helfors for the visitors. Nick Price and Ewan Hill with the goals for the Pitbulls in that one. And the last game on Saturday, well, Milton Keynes needed to make a statement coming off of their tough Thursday night and rolled into Saturday and rolled right over the Telford Tigers. Game tied, game at 2-1 for a good chunk then before Milton Keynes eventually pulled themselves away. Rio Grinnell Park, a couple goals from Harry Gulliver, a couple from Grinnell Park, apologies, a couple from Gulliver and 1 from Tim Wallace, to get the Lightning over the line there. Danny Rose with the lone goal on Saturday night for Telford. The second part of that doubleheader then on Sunday up at the Dumfries Ice Bowl. A much closer game and a hat-trick from Wilstead this time, but ultimately still no points for the Bees. A 4-point weekend for Martin Grubb's side. A big one for Solway given Telford's loss the night before. Callie Robertson, Carl Carruth Lewis Young, and a hat-trick from Nolan Gardner. 8 goals in 2 games for the Canadian, who's pretty much been the fulcrum of the Sharks' attack since joining at the beginning of last season. But a big, big weekend for the Sharks, given that race for the last playoff spot. And the Knights would also get a 4-point weekend, a 0-point weekend for the Raiders, probably still suffering something of a hangover from Thursday evening, and you can't really blame them, but you never like to lose at home. The Knights, however, continue their good recent run of form by blowing Romford away. Andrew Schufelt, TJ Anderson for the Raiders, Innes Gallagher, Finn Brayton, Jordan Griffin, Matt Bissonette and Matt Barron with the goals for Ryan Aldridge's side to make sure that the pressure was kept on MK. And then this was a game I watched on Sunday. Big thank you to the Hull Seahawks for sorting me out in this one. And a game where the Bristol Pitbulls weren't bad, but they weren't good either. Pretty much toothless going forward, kept at bay very handily by the Hull Seahawks, who run out the winners by a score of 4-0. Lovely goal from Owen Sobchuk in this game, it should be said if you check out the highlights. The other goals for the Seahawks coming from Bobby Chamberlain with 2 and Johnny Corneal, a 40-shot shutout for Dimitri Zimostra between the pipes for the Seahawks. Yeah, the Pitbulls in this one, they just couldn't generate much going forward at all, just not much of an attacking presence. Shout out Tommy Spraggan as well, the young Billingham defenceman on a 2-way contract with the Seahawks. His home debut in the league for Matty Davis's side. Didn't look out of place at all, very much showing that he can and probably will, but at least next season, be competing at the National Division level full time. And another team with a 4-point weekend, the Swindon Wildcats. They do what a lot of teams struggle to do, and that is win and dominate away in Peterborough. All of Swindon's goals scored by the 40-minute mark as they pushed their way past the Phantoms, who still suffering from that little bit. Even though they had a good run there of 4 wins on the bounce, it's hard to tell what Peterborough are going to do at times. Cam Huff, with another goal on the season for him and another goal this weekend for Jarvis Hunt. The goals for the Wildcats coming from Tomasz Malazinski, a couple for Jake Bricknell, Reed Sayers, Edgar Zebris, and a short-handed goal at the end of the second period for Aaron Nell. And then the last game of the weekend, MK just can't stop shooting themselves in the foot. Apparently, as they lose their second in the last 3, and I mean you can see from the numbers, MK were 2-0 up in this game. Jordan Spadafor even scored. And Telford turn it around on them, which will probably make the Tigers fans feel a little bit better, all things considered, given what happened to them against Hull the previous week. But yes, Jordan Spadafor and Carter Hammer with the goals for MK, and then turned around by Vlad Luka, Danny Rose, and a game-winning goal from Tom Byrne. Congratulations to him on that one. Not necessarily the person you'd expect to score the game winner on that front. But also shout out to Devon Skaleski, back on the ice after his injury that had kept him out for quite some time as well. Which then takes us to the National Division table, such as it is, and well, Leeds are back and they are top. Again, obviously, as we can see there, it's tied on points with the MK Lightning. Leeds holding the tiebreaker, and the Knights have a game in hand over the Lightning. That loss to Telford could prove very, very costly for Tim Wallace's men. Ultimately, the top 2 have a 5-point cushion over the Swindon Wildcats. And the Cats have got a game in hand on MK, but they are going to need the other 2 teams above them to drop points. Peterborough into 4th, 32 from 27, tied on points with the Steel Dogs, but the Phantoms have the tiebreaker. Hull in 6th with 31. Romford, after their 0-point weekend, stay in 7th, though after their 4-point weekend, Solway are sniffing at the heels of the Romford Raiders, 26 from 26, just one game's difference there, a win in one direction and a loss in another, and the Sharks could put themselves up a place. And then there is a 4-point gap between the Sharks and the Tigers, and as we can see, there's still 3 games in hand for Martin Grubb's men. The Sharks, if they can find a way to keep that form going, they're literally at 50% are Solway. If they push on, they will guarantee their spot in the postseason. Telford then on the outside looking in, 22 from 29. Bristol 19 from 27 after their losses this weekend, and the Bees another 0-point weekend for them, 13 from 27. We then head over to the fixtures, and we know now, because I've seen it from in the chat, thanks to Dylan Pitt for sticking it in there, that Max van Mullen created these graphics before he went over to Germany, and it was the netminder of note in goal tonight for GB's win over the Köln Higher under-17. So thanks to Max as ever for the graphics. Tomorrow night, Sorry, not tomorrow night. Friday night. Tomorrow's Thursday. I do dates. Friday night at Planet Ice Leeds. The Leeds Knights, the top seed from the cup table, elect to have the first leg in Leeds and will not take the second leg. Traditionally not gone very well for them, so maybe just trying to turn things around. Instead, it will be Friday night lights for the semi-final of the National Division Cup. The Leeds Knights and the Sheffield Steel Dogs, the return leg, will be on New Year's Eve at Ice Sheffield. Into Saturday then, and a full docket across the National Division, and top of the pile is where you'll find me this weekend. I will be in Slough for the Bees and the Peterborough Phantoms. Not had the opportunity to see Cam Huff with my own two eyes this season, so I'm going to go and take in that one over at the Hangar. Bristol take on Romford. The MK Lightning and the Swindon Wildcats in what's going to be two very, very highly contested games this weekend. Sheffield take on Telford. Solway take on Hull. And then on Sunday, Hull will take on the Leeds Knights in a Yorkshire derby. Peterborough will do an about face and will take on the Bees at home. Romford take on Bristol. Swindon take on MK. That's a massive home and home for those two sides, particularly for Swindon. Swindon get a 4-point weekend. They are immediately back in the title picture, especially considering what might happen to Leeds. And then, of course, it's Sunday. Telford are at home. They take on the Solway Sharks. There we go, that's the National Division done for another week. Let's just have a quick look at the chat. Missed out on the Cup semi breakdown, but I'll assume your breakdown consisted of vuvuzelas affecting the Lightning and advocating their ban from all rinks. Absolutely not. No, more chaos. Unfortunately, G, I don't know how often you come into the show, G, but you will know I like chaos and I like a lot of it. Karen obviously very happy with Telford's Sunday evening. A second game-winning goal for Tom Byrne. Apologies, it was not. I'd forgotten that one clearly, so apologies, Tom. Good news either way. You're doing really well. Andrew, of course, with the lowdown on Romford. Romford were good in the first and second. Put up a good fight on Saturday. A little unlucky with the penalty at the end of the second, which Leeds levelled it on the PP. Leeds with that Brown and Boyce on Saturday. Well taken Howlett goal. Mac Howlett's a different gravy. He should really be in the Elite League. But then again, so should most of the top 6 of Leeds. Raiders not really in it on Sunday. Walker put in net from 46 minutes when Raiders got 2 goals back, but a late penalty in the third gave the Knights the chance to seal the game with a power play goal. Yeah, there we are. Confirm. Maxwell Mullin better than Ben Clark-Leach. Get him in the NHL now. Might be a little strong. Also, it should be a lot of fun when we get the Romford Buccaneers versus Swindon Wildcats, because then of course you'll get Max versus Ben, probably in that, which will be a lot of fun to see. Andrew there advocating come and see the Queen Bees before. Come see the Queen Bees before on Saturday. Did try to factor it in. Can't. Unfortunately, family bits and pieces very much dictating that I must do bits and pieces. I'm usually a next day watcher, but Xmas hours allow me to join live. Well, thank you very much for coming and joining the Christmas party, G. And also big love to all of you folk who watch after the fact. I know quite a few people do, looking at the analytics. So yeah, for all of you folk who are watching this on Thursday or Friday, here's to you. You know what? I'll say this now, and I'm not sponsored by them, but if they'd like to, that'd be massive as well. As somebody who really likes his alcohol-heavy beers, Heineken Zero is probably the best non-alcoholic beer you can get at the moment. Genuinely, really, really nice. Genuinely a really, really good alcohol-free beer, and one that at Costco is a wonderful thing, and I have a Costco like 2 minutes drive from my house, so I've stocked up for Christmas on that front. Don't worry, we've got the proper stuff in too, but we just hit on those bits and pieces. Either way, National Division, thoughts, feelings, what are we thinking about it? Leeds back to the top of the table, that little spell of MK being at the top having come to an end. Heineken's also the best alcoholic beer you can get too. It definitely is not. I will tell you that now. It's probably one of the best mass-produced ones, Heineken. I'll say that. Out of the ones that you can kind of get easily in the shops, Heineken's definitely not terrible. So I will say that much for it. But yeah, is it the best? No. It's not the best alcoholic beer you can get. I'm trying to think. I've got too many I like to kind of pick immediately kind of one favourite. Certainly at Christmas there is enough good There's enough good sort of like Winterbox from Germany that you can get over, which is a real pain in the backside. There was a really good beer shop near me. Unfortunately closed down. The owners retired, and then one of them passed away from lung cancer, unfortunately. But they used to get in Flensburger Pils Winterbock, which was like 6.4, 6.5%. Really lovely beer to just have with the Christmas dinner. This year I've gone much heavier than sort of 6 point something. I've gone my beer for Christmas is 13.5% for my Christmas dinner, because I don't do things by halves. I'm a uni student, have the best credentials to judge alcohol. You've got the best credentials to judge cheap alcohol, Dylan, and that's how that one works on that front. Andrew chucking it in the chat. End of the second period at the SSE Arena in Belfast. Giants 3-1 up still on the Coventry Blaze. No immediate other news that I can see. Obviously, lots of sort of chatter, bits and pieces out there tonight. A lot of stuff about bits of media there. I've got BBC Humberside Sport talking about Hull, people selling tickets. A lot of darts bits around as well, which is a bit of a strange, bit always an interesting one this time of year. Not a big darts person myself, if I'm 100% honest. I'll keep an eye on it. Chances for an all-underdog cup final. Leeds a lot less likely to bottle it like MK, but Daddy Steeler will be blessing the dogs with all the two-ways. Yeah, I mean, So yeah, let's talk about the other semi-final then, and kind of preview it a little bit before we get too much into it, before we get into Division 1 and Division 2. Leeds and Sheffield. So the big thing here, for a chunk of it with Leeds, is this is all mental, really, for the Knights. The Knights should win this, if we're being honest with ourselves. And I think even though Sheffield will obviously believe that they are in the fight, and they very much are, but the Knights are the back-to-back league champions for a reason, right? For Leeds to win this, they've just got to get over the mental barrier in their head. And that's pretty much on it. And maybe that's part of the reason why they've done it in that sense. Why they've elected to go first, change it around, and put the pressure into the other direction. What is it gonna the other thing as well will be ice availability at Ice Sheffield. That will also probably potentially play a factor into it. But if you're Leeds, where they've had to go home having had issues away, and then had to sort of rely on trying to pull themselves over the line with the crowd behind them, actually turn it on its head. Go play at home. Try and rack up the goals at home where you're comfortable, and then go away and shut it down, because Leeds can shut things down as well. Although admittedly, Leeds' way of generally shutting things down is by scoring a lot of goals and therefore not giving the other team much of an option. But if you think back to that cup final that they lost against Peterborough, but they lost 6-0 in Peterborough, and everybody was just like, what's going on here? How have they managed to screw the pooch this bad? And then Peterborough, of course, lose all their netminders, borrow Callum Hepburn from Solway when Solway were in Div 1, and basically throw the kitchen sink at Peterborough for 60 minutes. And Austin Mitchell-King scored the game-winning goal into an empty net and nearly went headfirst into the boards in celebration. So yeah, that is there's that's going to weigh on your minds. And then of course Hull just utterly game planned Leeds out of it, and they were so knackered mentally that they couldn't do much with MK in the final. For me, and this is something I did say to Al Gehry, one of the directors of the Raiders, is just like, the first thing I said was like, congratulations, enjoy it, like soak this in, because getting to playoffs is a bit of a to the playoff weekend because of the shortened nature of our playoffs. It is what it is, right? And but for Romford, let's put this into perspective. The Romford Raiders, who didn't have a coach, didn't have a captain, didn't have an owner in the middle of May, transferred ownership, got guys back, put a roster together, and for the first 10, the first games that they, that 10 game schedule for the cup, Romford got their way through that. Like, yeah, the business end of the season, the playoffs, we know hockey is hardwired for playoffs, right? But that can be, that tail from August to April is a very, very long one. Raiders made a cup final having technically not had a roster in the summer, and they've made the cup final in December. Mind-blowing. But the thing I did say to Alan Gehry was that you've got to make sure that this team is not mentally spent. And yeah, the Raiders get a 0 point weekend. That is what it is on that front. Not surprised in the slightest, given the exertion of energy they had on Thursday, and they had to play Leeds home and home. Like, yeah, fine, you lose that one. But there is a focal point for Raiders hockey. It's Friday night, New Year's Eve, and then what comes next? Because ultimately, whoever gets through that are going to have that first choice of first and second legs. And if Leeds get through, they are choosing to go first. And Rotherham will have to go to Leeds for the first leg. But yeah, for Leeds, why would they need to do anything different? This is all just mind games for Leeds. Get themselves over the hump. For Sheffield, who I still really can't put my finger on when I watch them play. For Sheffield, I think, particularly with the first leg in Leeds, make it mucky. Do what you need to do and come out of that first leg within punching distance. Because at home, in a rink that's not going to be massively full, unfortunately, maybe, if I'm the Steelers, I'm trying to get that barn packed out. But we know from looking at the numbers on the National Division website that the Dogs do not get the biggest of attendances. Make it hard at home, as hard as you can at Leeds, because if Leeds are 1 goal ahead, then there's a lot of work they've got to do in the second leg in a place that's not comfortable to play in. If Leeds go into the second leg ahead by 3 or 4, I'm pretty confident the tie would be done. Yes, hockey can turn things on a sixpence, and Romford did that. But I'm not sure I can necessarily see Sheffield overcoming a 3 or 4 goal deficit. Definitely not a 5 or 6. If this game is tied going into Ice Sheffield, all bets are off. You can't make any predictions at that point because it will just be such a different one on that front. Is that news that's coming out now? Because it wouldn't surprise me. He has played for them before. Let's just have a quick squiz. Just because we've seen that in the chat. Nothing in the immediacy from them. Because Alfie's just stuck in the chat there. Jacob Branson to the Moes. Now, a team he's played for before, and a team that I think he would actually kind of fit. And one of the things that Invicta have struggled with, 1, penalty kill, and I think he'd be really good on that. And 2, consistent guys to play in the middle 6. Like, the issue for Invicta is they've had a really, really good top end, but the depth has sometimes struggled to be consistent all the way through. Also, Ranson, at South 1 level, top tier level forechecker. Teams won't know what to do with Jacob at that level. But can't see anything official yet. What else have we got in the chat? So yeah, so the main things for Leeds, don't change anything. Get a big, rack up the goals, blow them away if you can. For Sheffield, make it mucky in the first leg, take them home, and then just do what you do best. What have we got in there then? Darts is brilliant, got it on right now. We're waiting for Mr. Hamilton. Like I say, I've got nothing against it. It's just not for me. Ben Clark Leach and MVM have already played against each other this season. 24th of November, 4-0 win for Swindon. Yes, apologies there. Sid, for totally that one and off my brain. Here's a question. You might have an interesting opinion on it. Who's the most likely to be the next Brit drafted to the NHL? That is a really, really tough question, and one that doesn't immediately kind of leap out at me. Given the eyes that will be on Sheffield post CHL, post Kirk, I would venture that there is somebody coming through that Steel Dogs Steelers partnership, and it may not necessarily be anybody who's there right now, but that feels like the most likely route on that front, if I'm honest. The other answer, which leaps out at all of us, is Brindley Caps. He feels like the most elite league ready young Brit right now. And you have to think that eyes will be on him, particularly with this GB stuff, obviously, because it's like, hey, watch this stream for the GB under 18s that you had to pay €13 to get a month's subscription to a website, which is a thing. So that's a thing on that front. But Caps is probably down there. I think the obvious go-to for Brits will be Mario Vaxmansky to be most likely. Yeah, I mean Mario's a good shout as well, but for me, I'll say you asked me to put a nail on it as to who I think. Caps for me. GB Stream was free tonight. Yeah, I had to watch The Boy this evening and spend time with my wife, so I had to neglect that one. But yeah, hooray! Finally, they got that one sorted. At least it was on a different website this evening. That website that you had to spend money on Tuesday to watch the Krefeld game has all of the women's Bundesliga. So if you're into your women's hockey, women's Bundesliga is meant to be quite a good league. Go enjoy that. It should be fun. I train with the Moes. He's been training with us. His girlfriend has been watching Moes for years. I mean, fair enough. Like I say, Alfie, without wanting to sound horrid, I don't know who you are, and I will go away and I will check with my sources who I know. That's like I say, that's nothing against you, but because you are a name on a screen that I'm a person that I don't recognise, I will check before I start broadcasting that one around. And yeah, maybe Jacob is training with the Moes. Lots of guys train to keep fit in places. Nothing, like I say, nothing against you. But as I don't know who you are, I should press pause on that. For now. Either way, let us have a look at Division 1 and Division 2 as we start where we usually do in the north, and the Nottingham Lions did the Nottingham Lions. God bless them. 2-0 up on the big pad at the MIC against the Billingham Stars, and they blow it. And I'm sorry, I love the Lions, and I love what they do. But yeah, this is why champions are champions for a reason. It's because they rebound from result. They rebound when these kind of things happen. James Mather, Jack Croston with the goals for the Lions, and unfortunately all turned around by Michael Elder, Tommy Spraggan, and Joe Walls getting the game winner there. The Lions 2-1 up going into the third period and end up losing on the big pad to the Stars. Isaac Ballinger only facing 23 shots and letting in 3, and that's going to be a kicker for the Lions in that one. And then the world's most versatile arena and the Jets. Well, they get grounded by some fire from the D-side Dragons. A pretty comprehensive win for D-side. Hull's home form has not been as good as it was last year. We used to make, for regular viewers over the last couple of years, we used to joke last time that Hull couldn't win away. Now they just seem to be bouncing around all over the shop. Although still a pretty decent record of 12-1-8 on the season. Both Hull and D-side going to be definitely sniffing around that playoff. Sniffing around those playoff spots, but ultimately D-side, the game was tied at 3-3 after 22 minutes, and D-side just went, nah, we're done here, and pushed themselves away. Just looking at, as we check out the goals from that one, Vlad Volkanovs, Scott Morris and Ian Kerman for the Jets. Alex Parry, Will Harper, Ross Kennedy, and then 4 on the night from Jake Witkowski, who's now on 24 goals for the season since arriving late for D-side. And then elsewhere on Saturday, they're back in the winning column again. It's the Widnes Wild. They win at Ice Sheffield against the Sheffield Scimitars. Matt Barlow's goal cancelled out by Jack Dransfield, but then Andrew Hopkins, Ross Chalmers, and a second of the night from Barlow getting the Wild over the line on this one. Nick Winters facing 48 shots is pretty bad at home from a Scimitars perspective. But heading into Sunday, only away teams won on Saturday night. Would it be the same on Sunday? You can see there, absolutely not. As Solihull put up a cricket score against Leeds Knights 2. Crazy scoreline of 15-3. Sorry Leeds. Let's have a quick look at the bench. I mean, it's not exactly a super short bench. There's not that many more people on Solihull's one, but just ultimately blown out of the water. Noah DC Coulton, Harry Exley and Jake Wigington with the goals for the Knights. And then let's take our time there because, yep, you can see it in the middle of your screen. Dan Mulcahy, 6+2 on the night. Nicholas Otterson, 1+6 on the night, which is pretty crazy. So, yeah, let's go through those goals then. Dan Mulcahy with 6. 2 goals for Matt Morris, and then goals for Alex White, Jacob Race, Dan Haid, Jordan Jolly, Corey Goodison, Charlie Webb, and Nicholas Otterson into the bargain. Some crazy point scoring totals for the Barons over the last little while. Widnes, while they would not go back to back, unfortunately, Blackburn put the Wild very handily to the sword. A 7-1 win at home for Dominic Osman's side, and yeah, I mean, you can. All the big names up there. A hat trick on this game for Andy McKinney. A couple of goals as well for Jacob Lutwich into the bargain. 2 for Lutwich, 1 for James Riddock, 1 for Adam Barnes, and a hat trick for Andy McKinney. 3+1 on the night for him. The lone wild goal coming from Michael Gilbert. And yeah, 57 shots faced by Harry Campbell. 7 goals. Still pretty impressive, all things considered. And then the big Nottingham Sheffield derby. It's big enough in the Elite League. It is what it is in Division 1 North, but they still have a lot of fun either way. And a pretty comprehensive win for the Nottingham Lions after recovering from that horrible defeat on Saturday at home. They went back to the small pad, back to the CCM rink, and did the business. 8-1 for the Lions in this one. The lone Sheffield goal coming from Joe Matthewman. On this occasion. Goals for the Lions coming from Toby Fisher, Lee Kemp, Alex Rushby, Luke Birchnell, Tyler Somerton, and a hat-trick from Alish Padalek, going 3+2 on the night for the Czech assistant coach. Scarlett Richardson plays the full 60 for the Scimitars and faces 70 shots into the bargain. A 62 save performance is still pretty impressive. 28 shots faced in the third period alone. As you see, Saturday, all the away teams win. Sunday, all the home teams win. Will we get such madness next weekend? It remains to be seen. Saturday, the 21st of December in North 1, the Hull Jets and the Blackburn Hawks. Actually a very interesting league and cup encounter at the world's most versatile arena. 7 p.m. over on Merseyside for Widnes versus Deeside. Sunday at 5 p.m, the Deeside Dragons and the Billingham Stars in league and cup action, albeit the Billingham's place is pretty much guaranteed with the amount of games in hand they have in the Cup. Solihull take on Nottingham at 5:30 at Holsworth Road, and also 5:30 on Merseyside again. A double home weekend for Widnes as they will look to get their way past the Sheffield Scimitars. We just have a quick look at the league table. Then Billingham still very much in a commanding position. Blackburn still with the game in hand, but Billingham's 9-point advantage keeping them in good stead. Deeside, Solihull, Hull, Whitley, Nottingham and Leeds all on the outside looking in. Whitley, of course, came drastically close to overturning their first leg defeat against the Edinburgh Capitals, but ultimately the Northern Cup is heading over the border to Murrayfield. Congratulations to Edinburgh on that one. Sheffield Scimitars and the Widnes Wild are on the outside looking in. Widnes, though, with 2 games in hand on the Scimitars and a game in hand on the Knights. They've sort of bottom 3, looking like that's going to be the big race for the final playoff spot. Will the Knights make it at the first time of asking? In the Cup, as we know, it's Hull, Blackburn and Hull are already qualified. In Group A, because there's so many games still outstanding, it looks like, for the most part, there's a high chance it will be Billingham and Deeside, but Whitley will still have a say in that they have a game in hand over the Dragons. Just having a look there. I hope to go up Streatham next season. Go this season if you can, actually. The parking spaces are horrible at Streatham, but the rink is really good, and the cafe at Streatham is really good as well. Still waiting for you to venture to the Den for BOTW. I'm looking at it. Dylan is the short version on that one. It's just finding, like I say, wife, job, son, lots of bits and pieces, and if I'm coming up to Nottingham for a 7:20 face-off on a Sunday, I'm staying over. I don't care what anybody says on that front. Into South 1. And my game that I went to, of course, the full write-up from this one, over at bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, Banners on the Road series, giving you in-depth look at every game that I go to. But the Solent Devils inflicting just the 2nd defeat in the league all season on the Streatham Redhawks. And this was a game where Streatham misfired and Solent put in an absolutely superlative full-team performance. It was the perfect storm for Alex Murray's side. Alex Murray, who pretty handily lost the fight to Ben Painter in the second period, it should be said. But ultimately, Solent are at their best when they're at home and they invite on that pressure. Sometimes it can backfire on them, as it has every single time against Slough. But Streatham just couldn't seem to find a way to get themselves rolling properly, trying to do too many things with the puck, trying to throw too many passes through the eye of a needle, and it just didn't work for them. And Solent struck when it was necessary. Ryan Sutton's goal cancelled out eventually in the third period by Ryan Watt. Liam Coleman put the Devils back on top, and then, unfortunately for Sam Waller, he made an absolute hospital pass right onto the stick of Mark Pitts. How Charlie Wedge has got an assist on that goal, I have no idea. Didn't touch it at all. No way did he touch that puck in the slightest. But it was a fantastic finish by Pitts. 3-1 win for the Devils, and ultimately pretty thoroughly deserved, all things considered. Great performance in net from Aaron Taylor. Meanwhile, Slough had a bit of a gunfight at the OK Corral over at the Sapphire with the Romford Buccaneers, but ultimately the Jets come out with the 7-5 win. A pretty crazy back and forth game that was. 1 point tied at 2-2. It was Romford pulled it back to 5-4 before the Jets eventually pushed themselves all the way out of this one. Max Van Mullen facing 56 shots in net, as you can see. Not exactly a very deep bench from the Buccaneers. 2 goals from Luca Pasquale, as well as goals from Uri Husker, Tom Wilson and Callum Burnett. For the Jets, 2 goals from Christian Moore, as well as goals for Ollie Hemmings-Mayer, Jack Goodchild, Brandon Miles, Lewis English and Jude Affleck, which I think is Jude it's Jude Affleck's first goal for the Jets, so congratulations to him. With news of Stretham's downfall elsewhere, the Chieftains and the Jets obviously wanted to press on. The Chieftains, well, they do press on. It's a 6-1 win at home for them over the Oxford City Stars. It's been a torrid season for Oxford as well now as having lost one of their better offensive weapons in Jack Peacock, having left the Stars to rejoin the Devils. He re-debuted for Solent this past weekend. Oxford eventually getting a consolation goal through Alex Tidings, but not before Sasha Maltsev. A couple of goals from Grant Bartlett, a couple of goals from Mikey Power and one from Cam Bartlett have the Chieftains all the way over the line there. Shout out to the Oxford graphic typo that had Matt Lauday as a third netminder in this game. Ross Miller making 70 saves on the road is pretty crazy. On Saturday elsewhere, in a 7-2 win for the Invicta Dynamos, good for in League and Cup action down in Gillingham. Invicta 4 goals to the good before the Cardiff Fire managed to get themselves on the board. Ultimately, a pretty comfortable one, this one, for Carl Lennon's side. 2 goals on the night for Bailey Hind Pitcher for the Fire. A hat-trick for Tom Saw as his good goal-scoring form in the league continues, as well as goals for Mads Toon, Aaron Connolly, Richard Harris and Ollie Brunneman. Into Sunday, and well, yeah, a pretty torrid weekend for the Oxford City Stars, given a bit of a lesson down in Chelmsford, then being shut out at home by the Invicta Dynamos. 2 goals for Mads Toon, as well as goals for Tom Saw, his 26th of the season, and a last goal at the end from Louis Colvin, sealing the deal for the City Stars. Another 34 shot shutout for Brad Windibank in net for the Kent side, and another 43 save performance from Ross Miller in net for the City Stars. A 6-point weekend though for the Solent Devils as they look to try and make the top 3 sides really think about what's going on. They win by 4 goals to 2 at the Link Centre against the Swindon Wildcats NHL 1 roster. Swindon a goal up in this one through Jay Warren, but immediately former Wildcat who started the season in Swindon before leaving to go back to Solent. 2 goals from Liam Coleman putting the Devils 2-1 up just at the 35-minute mark. And then a bit of late madness. Dan Bradley levels the scores with just under 6 minutes to go, but that tied status lasted all of 16 seconds as Charlie Wedge, who for me has been one of the most impressive sort of developments this season of any player I've seen across any of the divisions that I've watched. He has been lights out to start 24-25, and as we head towards the turning of the year, I can only imagine how impactful he could possibly be heading into the end of the season for Alex Murray's team. 2 goals from him round this one out, and the Devils skate off with the 6-point weekend on that one. Aaron Taylor only facing 21 shots in that game. Could the MK Thunder get a second win of the season? Nope. 1-20 for the Thunder as they keep doing their level best to press on, but they lose down in Cardiff Bay by a score of 5-2 against the Cardiff Fire, who of course had a bit of a tough Saturday evening themselves, but a pretty comfortable win in the end for the Fire as they get themselves some extra points on the board. Sean Reynolds and Josh Hickman with the goals for the MK Thunder. Bailey Hind Pitcher, Lewis Stevens, Ewan Davies, Ellis Shepherd and Will Thurbert with the goals for the Cardiff Fire in that one. And then Streatham, well, a bad Saturday night, and they certainly made up for it on Sunday by turning around and putting Chelmsford very much to the sword. A case of penalties at bad times. Lewis Clifford spoke about it in his sort of thing on Facebook from the Chelmsford Chieftains, of that they'd done so well on Saturday and then were right back where they started in terms of the league as they are taken out by Streatham, who were obviously wanted to make a statement from the night before. Ben Painter had the game, had the Red Hawks ahead early. Tied game just at the halfway mark thanks to Howland Barnes-Garner, but after that it's all Red Hawks. Ethan Lane, Luke Brittle, Ryan Watt and Danny Ingoldsby getting the Red Hawks back to winning ways, which and maybe hopefully I've teed this up properly, but he's not in the chat, so I don't know. But Chris Beale will of course have those highlights up from the high road before too long. And as we see a return to the nets for Danny Milton, getting himself back on the ice, backed up on Saturday before getting the full 60 minutes. 1 goal on 28 shots for Milton in his return to the net. Not a great night for Jordan Lauday. 5 goals on 30 shots for the Chelmsford backstop. Pretty full Saturday though in South 1. 5:15 p.m. over at the Sapphire for the Romford Buccaneers and the MK Thunder. 5:45 down in Gillingham sees the Invicta Dynamos welcome the Slough Jets. The Oxford City Stars, an unusual Saturday home game for them. They're at 6:15 p.m. at the Ox Pens against the Chelmsford Chieftains, and then a visit to the Link Centre for the Streatham Redhawks. They take on the Swindon Wildcats at 6:30. Just the 2 games on Sunday, both in the league. Slough and Invicta will about face and meet at the Hangar at 5:45. Streatham return back to the high road. They will about face as well and welcome the Swindon Wildcats for their last game before Christmas. Just have a quick check of the chat. Jacob Ranson to the Bees. Jacob Ranson's now going to 2 teams in this chat. Tons and tons of fun. But yes, I mean, knowing Jacob Ranson, the Bees feels like a very likely destination for a couple of reasons. One, it's because it's just been announced. It's there. Yep, that's on that one. So that'd be why Slough have announced it. Let's quickly just duck back on there. There it is. It's on there. Jonathan, I've just realised that as well. We'll do that in a second. But there he is. Jacob Ranson signs for the Bees for the rest of the season. Jacob wanted ice time. Boy, about to get some ice time on that one. So you definitely can't argue that. Tons and tons of fun on that one. But that means I get to see him on Saturday, which is really, really good fun. Because I get to, like I say, I've known Jacob for a while, and I will get to make fun of his haircut again, which is what I've been doing for the better part of however many years. As Jonathan has just mentioned, I've neglected the South 1 table, so let's just quickly hop back and have a look at it. Slough still top, as I think everything's pretty much as it was. Streatham are 3 points behind with a game in hand over Slough and hold the tiebreaker. On that one. Solent, though, up into 3rd place. They have, however, played 3 more games than Chelmsford and are tied on points with them, so advantage Chelmsford in terms of pushing themselves on there. Chelmsford, though, having played a game more than Streatham, have played the same amount of games as Slough. Elsewhere, from the outside, on the inside looking out, Invicta, Romford, Swindon and Oxford still in the playoff places, but Oxford's big issue is going to remain the Cardiff Fire. The Fire 2 points back on the City Stars with 5 games in hand. MK are here for the vibes at this point. 1 and 20 so far on the season, but Solent's win over Streatham did settle the argument with regards to the final spot in the cup. Streatham will take on Chelmsford and Slough will take on Solent across the weekend of the 18th and 19th of January 2025 to progress to the final of the Britain Cup. Now let's do do North 2, shall we? And the D-side Ducks, they were so close, so very close. 5-4 up with 10 minutes to go. Bradford Bulldogs turn it on its head and win. And just everything just comes apart for the Ducks right at the death. Liam Hine ties the game at 50-59, and Dara Sparforth, who's over in Germany with the GB under-18s, wins the game at 52-22 for the Bulldogs. A case of nearly but not quite for the Ducks in this one. Goals for the hosts from Gary Dixon, Stuart Cutting, Rafferty Smith, Chris Jones and Rory Sillery. The goals, as we mentioned, for the Bulldogs, two on the night from Dara Sparforth, as well as 2 from Kai Hathaway, Liam Hine and Jared Knowles with the other goals for the Yorkshire side. Got a feel for the Ducks a bit on that one. It happens to the best of us, and hi Telford. And then finally we get to it. The unstoppable force meets the immovable object, and the Sting get the Tigers The Telford Tigers lose at home, which is a big enough shock in itself, but the Sutton Sting go 17-0 on the season. A huge, huge step for the Sting last year, who were always close but not quite when it came to the Tigers, and then both of them ended up scuffing the playoffs. But the Sutton Sting put themselves in the driving seat when it comes to the league title, as they get their way past Telford in Telford. Paul Davies with the lone goal for the Tigers. Adam Brooks-Smith, Charlie Saunders and Joe Colton with the goals. It's been a pretty impressive season, all things considered, for Lewis King. Jokes aside about the fact he wears 99, which I'm sorry, Lewis, is still pretty weird. Only 23 saves forced out of him on the night, and that's got to be a big statement as well for this Sutton Sting D to limit Telford at home to so few shots. Altrincham versus Kingston, which we have nothing on. Let's just quickly pull up the Altrincham Aces, because the Altrincham Aces will have something somewhere about this. They usually do. Aces. Why do I keep looking on the Altrincham Aces Twitter when they don't use it? Really close game. Sutton are just so good defensively. To be frank, we lost at home in the cup last year. They won it in Sheffield. Don't count them out yet. No. We're not gonna. We count nobody out. We count nobody out this early. We never do such things. But it's that's a pretty big statement win, all things considered. I think. Final score from that one then. Altrincham versus Kingston. Aces win in a shootout by 5-4 against the Kingston Sharks. A first senior goal as well from Bailey Thomas for the Aces that I can see. He's 16 years and 1 month. God, does that make me feel old? Is the short version on that one. But congratulations to him, and congratulations to the Aces on at least getting 2 points. The Sharks get themselves 1 point on that one. So skip past, and then the Ducks you knew it was coming and you still feel bad for it, but D-side travel up to Billingham and the Buccaneers show no mercy. 12-0 victory for the Bucks against D-side on the weekend. Let's have a quick scoot then at the goals. 2 for Michael Plant, 2 for Kyle Black, and then goals for James McCabe, Stephen Wallace, still can't believe he's back playing, Ben Greenhalgh, Dan Hughes, Sam Dowd, Ethan McLaughlin, Abby McCourt, and Connor Stoves. Against what was that is an incredibly short benched side. That is 3 listed defensemen for the Ducks in that one. That's not ideal. Callum Preston lets in 12 goals on 64 shots. A 21 shot shutout for Ronald Pierce in the backing up for the Buccaneers. This coming weekend then in North 2. 12 o'clock seems to be the new fun time at the Hull Ice Arena. I'm sure they'll probably stream it as well on their Facebook page. The Kingston Sharks take on the Sutton Sting. Can the Sharks be the banana skin that the Telford Tigers weren't for Sutton? 5 p.m. over in North Wales for the D-side Ducks and the Altrincham Aces. A big game for the Aces. Win by more than 4 goals and they will qualify for the semi-finals of the Cup and oust the Coventry NHL Blaze. They travel away to the Forum to take on Billingham on Saturday night, and then 2 games on Sunday, 3:20 p.m. at Sheffield for the Sutton Sting and Nottingham Lions 2, and then 5:30 p.m. in Bradford. Telford look to try and get back to winning ways as they travel to face the Bulldogs. There's the table then. As we both know, both top 2 sides to qualify for the playoffs. What a massive surprise that is. But the Sting stand alone as the lone remaining undefeated team in the northern section of the NIHL. There are only 2 undefeated teams now in the entire country. Sutton are one of them, as they now have the advantage of a 3-point gap in real time to Telford, even though the Tigers have 2 games in hand. Billingham then quite comfortably in third by quite some distance, followed by Altrincham, Coventry, Kingston, Bradford and Sheffield. D-side and Nottingham are on the outside looking in. As we mentioned, it'll be Coventry or Altrincham for that last spot. Telford are guaranteed to be playing Billingham over the weekend of the 18th and 19th of January. As I said, the Aces need to win by 4 goals against D-side this coming weekend. Is there a minimum number of players available to play? You can get dispensation. I believe it's 10 off the top of my head is the minimum number to play. In South 2 then, and well, the Oxford Rising Stars certainly having a better time of it than the first team right now. The Rising Stars at 500 hockey, they win by 8-3 against the Lee Valley Lions to take themselves to 6-6 on the season. No overtimes of any description for Oxford, 60 minutes, and that's all that they're after in this one. But a pretty decent win. A game that was on a knife edge for a little while, tied at 3-3 at the halfway mark before Oxford pushed themselves away and out of sight. Goals for the Lions in this one, 2 from Ross Hidge and 1 from Sebastian Downing. Goals for the Rising Stars, a hat-trick for Mike Willock, 2 goals for Josh Oliver, 2 for Ed Crotty and 1 for Chris Beckett. As we just have a quick squiz at the netminder stats, both Frame brothers getting in for Lee Valley as Ethan lets up 47 goals on 45 shots and Cam Frayne letting up 1 on 7. A pretty decent time in net for Kayla Poole. She faces the full 60 minutes for the Rising Stars. Cardiff had a pretty tough trip all the way up to Peterborough, who are, of course, not in the happiest of places after what happened to them against Guildford. But the Peterborough Phantoms back to winning ways. Another game that was pretty tied at 2-2, but Peterborough were just that little bit stronger and still very much in the title hunt for in South 2. Dan Martin with 2 goals, as well as goals for Jordan Ho, James White, Kenny Bavin and Connor Pollard. Goals for the Cardiff Canucks, 2 for Giacomo Raffaelli and the other one for Giovanni Raffaelli. So Italian flair for the Canucks in this one. Harry Thomas makes 43 saves on the night. But the Canucks, they did get something out of the Sunday evening. A tough game at the bottom of towards the bottom of South 2, but one that goes the way of the Welsh capital rather than the English one. A 2-1 win for Trevor Hendricks' side away at Lee Valley. Joe Morris and Giovanni Raffaelli with the goals for the Canucks in this one. Dan Clayton scoring late, but not enough for Lee Valley in this one. In a game that's seeing a lot of those younger lads getting a good chunk of ice time, but ultimately it's been a bit of a tough year at times for the Canucks. They're still sort of trying to learn as an organisation, clearly. But 60 minutes for Ethan Frayne and making 53 saves, still pretty impressive, although a frustrating loss again for Lee Valley. Invicta, well, they managed to get themselves a big win in the Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup. Of course, this competition that's taking place alongside the Cup. A third defeat in this competition for the Huskies. But ultimately, Peterborough still Peterborough were leading the way in this one. Invicta were 3-0 up after 29 minutes, thanks to Kevin Lake, Sam Oliver and Bradley Gutrich. Haringey did pull himself back into it. Ollie Cooper and Nikita Bezovskis. There we go. That's what we're going for. Get 2 goals back for the Huskies, but not enough in the end. Naomi Healy facing all 60 minutes in net for the Huskies in this one. A 47 save performance from Heath Prentice for the Mustangs. Just the one game. And even then, it's not till the 29th. So Merry Christmas from South 2. The next bit of action will come actually after the next What's Current stream. But as you can see, it's a pretty big one, all things considered. Guildford and Peterborough is the next game in South 2 on the 29th of December. As we look at the table then, Peterborough is still top and still the only team officially qualified for the playoffs because Guildford have still only played 8 games. But Guildford are the only undefeated side in the southern section of the NIHL. That win over Peterborough proving massive, and they've already beaten Haringey this season and beaten Invicta on penalty shots. It's very much advantage Phoenix, all things considered there. But it's Peterborough, Haringey, Invicta, Guildford, Oxford, Cardiff, Solent and Chelmsford in the playoffs currently. Chelmsford in a decent position though as well. Quite a few games in hand. 5 games in hand over Cardiff, 2 in hand over Solent, and only 4 points back of the Junior Devils. Bristol are tied on 5 points as well, but they played 2 more games than Chelmsford. Lee Valley are 1-11 on the season. The Cup is already decided. Guildford will play Haringey and Peterborough will play Invicta across the weekend of the 18th and 19th of January. And there we go. Every game across all 5 divisions of the National Ice Hockey League structure. We've talked about it, we've checked it, and we've gone all the way through it. That means we open the door. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything anyone wants to chat about. We're at about 9:15. We'll roll for a little bit longer. If people want to chat about stuff, I'll talk about what we're going to do over Christmas in a bit, as well as have another swig of my beer. Final score then in the Elite League from this evening, a 4-1 win for the Belfast Giants over the Coventry Blaze. Bobo Carpenter with the empty netter to finish off things for Belfast in that one. But there we go. Jacob Ranson to the Bees. So I like this for a bunch of different reasons. One, bees clearly need bodies. And obviously we saw that this weekend where it was quite a tough one for them. Two, it's another player full time, not on a two-way. So Jacob being 29 is only going to have one element of that he needs to concentrate on. It's obviously a bit of travel for him going from Romford to Slough, but not the end of the world on that front. What it adds from a playing dimension is it adds a guy who can slot into doing a bit of work on the penalty kill. Ranson's a really good penalty killer. He's really, really good on the forecheck, which given the he's quite good. He's got a lot of energy as Jacob, and so we'll be able to do some bits and pieces there. He very much suits that kind of National Division style. Bees fans are going to love him. He knows Ashley Tate. Does Jacob, so it's quite good in that sense. Obviously, it's not the greatest of situations joining a team at the bottom of the table, but if the one thing that Jacob wants to be able to do is play at National Division level, get lots of minutes, he's about to do that, and he's going to be able to do that in lots of situations. I mean, he's not going to put up tons and tons of points, but what Jacob will do is will allow other guys to not have to play as much to make them fresher, and that's a really, really good thing. And he can chip in points from time to time. He's got a deceptively decent shot, a lot like Hallam Wilson in that sense. And if the Bees start getting guys back from injury as well, that will probably help no end as well. Of course, no Andrew stuck it in the chat though. No games in the Women's Elite League this weekend because of the Olympic qualifiers, but plenty of games taking place around the country. WNHL 2 South A, Cambridge Kodaks with a pretty hefty win there. 11-1 they win over the Slough Sirens. In 1 South, a 5-2 win for the Swindon Top Cats on the road at the MK Falcons. Chelmsford Cobras, on the other hand, they get taken down pretty handily. They get shut out at home 8-0 by the Firebees. In the WNHL North 2 Cup, a good win for the Sheffield Shadows. They win 10-2 on the road against the Widnes Wild Women. And Leeds Roses win by 7-1 against the Kingston Diamonds WNHL 2 roster. In the South 2 Cup, there's a lot of different groups in that one. Group 3, a 6-5 win for the Solent Amazons against the Oxford Midnight Stars. A battle there of two former BOTW Hockey Stories guests in that one. And in the South Cup Group 1, the Phantoms Women's squeak out a 3-2 win against the Coventry Phoenix. Chelmsford defeat Invicta by 12-0 in league action on Sunday, and that brings us then up to this upcoming weekend because the Women's Elite League is back. Queen Bees against the Guildford Lightning, 1:10 p.m. at the Slough Ice Arena, and then in NHL 1 North, Nottingham Vipers versus Solway Sharks Ladies is 2:05. That will be at the CCM rink at the NIC. Sunday, Swindon Top Cats, Bristol Huskies in the Southwest Derby in 1 South. Kingston Diamonds, Solway Sharks Ladies in 1 North. That's a 12:30 p.m. face-off at the world's most versatile arena in Hull. Oi. But yeah, that Ranson signing, good for the Bees. Enjoy it. Like I say, I'll be up there on Saturday, hanging out, watching. Like I say, I'm interested to see I've watched a lot of tape on Cam Huff, so I'm really interested to see him with my own two eyes. There's just something about it where it's just better to do, in my personal opinion. Should be a lot of fun. I've made enough jokes about kind of Peterborough, but it is interesting to it's interesting to watch, right? It's interesting to get perspectives on things, even if you aren't necessarily the biggest of fans. Also, it just means that Joe can just sit in a car and him and I can just laugh at each other for sort of an hour and a bit in each direction, which is always good fun because Joe's good value for money and is a thoroughly nice guy. Even if I've had to, if nothing else, I've got my space on Just Park back because apparently the car park from the council building is now gone. That's not an option, but I managed to find a parking space on Just Park, so I'm guaranteed a space nice and close to the rink, which is quite nice. Yeah, questions, comments, anything anybody wants to chuck in. We're just having another look as to what's Let's just see if there's been any other news. Nothing in the immediacy. That's the end of the. That's the end of the commentary game. I do like that bit from the Elite League. I know it would be quite tough for the National Division to do, but the game-winning goal getting posted on social media by the league, I do like as a little. As a sort of a little snippet. I do wonder whether the first goal of the night for the winning team would be better, so as to not necessarily give away what's going on. But I get why. I get why they do it. So yeah, Christmas. So yeah, next Wednesday is Christmas Day. There will be no BOTW stream on Christmas Day because I will get shot. And also I'm at my in-laws most of the day, and I'll be far too tired to do anything. The plan is Friday, 27th of December, 8 PM. What's current stream? Friday night. We'll get some more Christmas snacks out. Being as it's a Friday evening, I might crack a proper beer rather than an alcohol-free one, and we'll chat hockey. Is going to be the plan on that one. 28th of December. So 27th will be the What's Current stream. 28th, I am in Guildford commentating on the Guildford Flames and the Manchester Storm for the fourth time in the short run I've done with Guildford. I've had 4 Manchester games, which will be a bit of a laugh there. And then after Christmas week, of course, it would mean New Year's Day. Undecided what we'll do about that one. Streaming on New Year's Day might be a possibility. That's more likely. I'm not sure. I know I am indisposed with family stuff through the day, but certainly I think streaming on New Year's Day, I think we can probably get away with on that one. So we'll go for that one. But there will be no stream on Christmas Day. I am sorry on that front. Otherwise, massively interested to see what will happen at Christmas. Hopefully everybody has a good Christmas and enjoys themselves. Certainly I'll be fascinated to see what, if any, hockey bits and pieces I get bought, because mostly my family are too scared to buy hockey bits and pieces for me because they don't really know. Or you do what my auntie did, which was go to Canada and knew I liked hockey, so bought me hockey stuff, which is wonderful, and I love my aunt. But she bought me a Toronto Maple Leafs hoodie and a Montreal Canadiens hat. Bought them both together at the same time, which is pretty special, all things considered. And my aunt, but that's the best bit about it, really, is that my aunt, knowing I liked something, made an effort to try and find something for me, and it was pretty awesome. Most of the stuff that is on the hockey shelf is kind of self-accumulated. The bits and pieces that I've mostly picked up myself, rather than, but that's had to be the way sometimes. You buy things for, you have to buy bits and pieces for yourself. I'm just double checking whether any of these were necessarily presents from anybody. I don't think they are, actually. I think most of these are bits and pieces I all bought myself. That came out of a tin. The Toronto Maple Leafs Cup banner came out of a tin of Toronto Maple Leafs Centennial hockey cards, which, if you do like your specific hockey products, hockey card products, there is a Centennial Boston Bruins tin, which I'm set, which I'm quite interested to look at. Although I don't really like the Bruins much, but most of these I kind of picked up myself. The Bison Ukraine money raising puck, which I think Andrew Day still has his one of somewhere, and then we've got a bunch of other bits and pieces around. So we will see if anything gets added to the shelf. Because of course you will see by the 27th if anything is there to be added to, it will be up on the shelf for the 27th of December when we return for the next What's Current stream. The duality of man, Habs and Leafs. I did not wear them together. I could not bring myself to do that. That felt even as a Caps fan, I felt like that was a line too far for me to be able to do. No other news leaping out. Well, we'll see if there is any news out of Milton Keynes over the next couple of days. Certainly nothing. There's no announcement that they're making an announcement, but I suppose we will see. won't we, on that front? The certainly I know from a Guildford perspective, I was like, because obviously Guildford announced. Question for everyone, and you, Anthony. What are good Xmas songs to play at the rink? Thinking Saturday for Slough. Yeah, let's help out. Let's help Andrew out with that one very, very quickly. Christmas songs to play at a rink. For me, Christmas Time, Don't Let the Bells End by The Darkness, which is one of my favourite Christmas songs. They're playing the Guildford Light. There's no easy Christmas songs to do on that one. Mary's Boy Child by Boney M, I always think is good for a good little sort of bop around whilst you're in a break. What other ones can we give Andrew for good of playing at a rink? There's so many. I mean, Slade, you got to do. Wizard, you probably got to do. We're having the same conversation because we're driving to my in-laws. My in-laws are about like 90 minutes away, and we're driving to theirs on Christmas, and so I've had to rope in both wife and son to put all their respective song choices onto the Christmas playlist for Christmas Day when we drive up. But yeah, definitely The Darkness, Don't Let the Bells End. Backdoor Santa or Run DMC's version that uses the sample. Good energy. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Thank you, G, for chipping in on that one. I mean, it's probably a bit on the nose to play I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas. Not sure how some people will take that, even though that is quite a funny song. I'm just trying to think. I mean, as a fan of Bad Religion, they did an entire Christmas album, so you could do Bad Religion's version of "O Come All Ye Faithful." That's quite funny. Yeah, there's just so many random things that you could kind of put on. I think really the thing with it, Andrew, is there are some Christmas songs you probably couldn't do. Probably don't do "Millennium Prayer" by Cliff Richard. But a lot of the good sort of bopping Christmas tunes you can probably get away with, and then mix in a few other bits and pieces as well, just to kind of keep the energy up and keep things flowing along. Unfortunately, there's no songs about sort of bees at Christmas, is there really? You're a bit sort of stuck on that one. Killing in the Name by Rage Against the Machine was Christmas #1 in 2009. That's a Christmas song, right? You are correct, of course. So yes, Andrew, you can justifiably do that one. They call this Christmas by the Dropkick Murphys. Yeah, I mean that's not a Murphy song I play very, very often, I must confess. But Chris is right on that one. Chris, what's the status of the Streatham highlights, please, my good man? Are they up? Are they out? Just waiting to see on that front. But no other news. We'll say last call on that one then as we're hedging towards 9:30. So last call for questions, comments, thoughts and feelings. As mentioned, Saturday, if you are at the hangar, I will be there for the Berkshire Bees and the Peterborough Phantoms. So do come over and say hello. Should be, like I say, good to get back towards being in there. Good to be back at a National Division game. Like I say, I've got sort of a bit of an odd run of games. I've got a couple more Elite League commentaries, and then it's back to NHL full time. And I will be sitting down and kind of planning out my life for the next couple of months, heading towards Coventry. Still in the edit. Blame Law Day and Milton for too many highlight reel worthy saves. Hey, it's a good problem to have, I suppose, on that front. But yeah, we'll give it another minute in case anybody wants to chuck anything else in, and then we will head out and head towards Christmas. So like I say, nothing next Wednesday. A week on Friday, the 27th, 8 PM. What's Current stream? We'll rock and roll with bits and pieces then on that front. There we go then, we will call it there. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to the NHL. Make sure to check out the latest Banners on the Road, your in-depth look at whatever game I managed to find myself at last weekend, which of course was the Soham Devils and the Streatham Red Hawks. Which was a cracking game, and you can pick up the next one next week when my rundown that will be from the Berkshire Bees and the Peterborough Phantoms. Of course, there's the other stuff that we have on the website, including hockey stories, long-form pieces of content from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into war and beyond. We're talking all things hockey related. Of course, you can see things in there. Some are videos, so our interviews with the guys from NIHL DOPS. Some of them are written pieces, like When the Music Stops, our piece on what it's like to retire from British hockey. But there's tons of stuff over there. The old BOTW podcast back catalogue is there, as well as our free to download tabletop ice hockey game, Dice Hockey. If you like, it's free to download. You can play with bits and pieces around your house. If you enjoy it and you downloaded it, please do consider chucking some money towards Parkinson's UK. My dad has Parkinson's. Parkinson's sucks, and ultimately, it'd be nice to get some money towards research and a cure. Something different that we're going to use to research to do some money for Parkinson's UK. Coming up in the new year. That should be a lot of fun. But either way, you've got nearly 14 years worth of stuff to check out over at bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Facebook.com/bannersonthewall if you like getting bits and pieces through your Facebook feed. That over there is so your Facebook.com/bannersonthewall. Hit the like button, and all the bits and pieces that go onto the website, all the links for stuff will go onto there, and you get that there. Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it these days, is @bannersotw. That is the best place to keep up with me and my sort of rolling commentary on British, European and world hockey. All the links are bits and pieces, sometimes little bits of news that don't make it into other places. And we're on Blue Sky. If you search for, it's bannersonthewall.bsky.social. Just search Banners on the Wall, we come up. There's also a really good UK hockey feed that you can subscribe to, and you'll get stuff from everybody that kind of picks up messages on Blue Sky about all the different bits and pieces. And there's our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Never going to go behind a paywall. It's just not how we do things, but it does cost money to do things. It costs money to exist, and if you do like what you see, if you like the quality of the content that you get from BOTW, then please do consider chucking a few quid into the virtual busking hat at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. But if you don't have the money, that's absolutely fine. Best way to kind of help us with bits and pieces is share bits and pieces, and the other way to really help is here on YouTube, the Banners on the Wall YouTube channel. Subscribe, like videos, share videos and stuff like that. It really does help with kind of algorithms and kind of helping people discover bits and pieces. All the links to the socials are down there in the description. And of course, it's home to the NIHL's first, only and best live show that covers all 5 divisions. Every game gets talked about, no matter what the division, no matter what happened. We give you live reaction to breaking news. We occasionally have the odd sort of live guests on the show. We'll try and do that a little bit more in the new year as well. More people on the show as well. But there's nothing else in Britain like it on the BOTW What's Current stream. Wednesday nights mostly at 8 PM when it's not on Christmas Day, or I don't poison myself. That's also accidentally happened this year. By the way, that's it. Another week of British hockey done, and we are edging towards the end of 2024. Pretty bonkers year personally for a bunch of different reasons, and a pretty busy year from a hockey perspective too when we get down to it. Ultimately, like I say, there will be one more before the end of 2024, so we won't get into a massive sort of reflective piece about that, and maybe have a chat about that next time. But we will know the score from the first leg of the other cup semi-final. Who will the Warren Raiders be waiting for by the end of it all? What will happen? What will Santa Claus bring us all? I will say this, at least, like I said, we'll get more retrospective about 2024 next week when we talk about it. But one thing I would like to say is thank you very much for your support over the course of this year. Please do have a very, very Merry Christmas, and I hope that wherever you are, I say at the end of every show, but especially at Christmas time, because it can be really, really tough for a lot of different reasons. Be happy. But if you can't be happy, then please, wherever you are, please do everything you can to please be safe. And especially at this really hard time of year, if you need to reach out, reach out. There's people who will listen, and there's people who will help if you need it. Take care of yourself, as my friend Scott always would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe, so long till next time, and Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. Have a good one. See you at the weekend in Slough if you're there, and otherwise, 27th, 8 PM,